You must push your pawns in chess, and this is to actually get a superior advantage. I am tired of seeing people play a lot of chicken chess, and it's like that guy is over there moving his pieces, and you're over here doing your thing. Learn to actually get the advantage in chess, and I'm going to be showing that with this game. I simply played pawn to e4, guys. Also, as you're seeing on the screen, I am a FIDE Master, and these are the tips I used along my way to actually reach where I am today. So now we have e4 and c6 by our opponent, d4, d5, and we have now seen already black has taken what I've said too personally. This, when I say push pawns, I don't mean like this. Like, you don't want to be trapping in your pieces, as you're seeing where this bishop is now boxed in by black's last move. Now, if you look to like the left or the right side of the screen per se, it's still equal. But these moves, you need to actually understand chess on a deeper level. Your pawn play must complement your pieces. Now, take notes, he basically blocked out his bishop. I then developed my knight, and now we have this huge inaccuracy, knight to f6. Now, this is how I want you guys to push your pawns. You push pawns to gain space. Bury your opponent's pieces. You want maximum control over the chess position. Like, guys, we are not chickens. We literally move forward. So e5. There is no need to actually develop a pieces. Again, alright. Depending on the level that you're at, there are going to be different moves which I will allow. But for this video, where we're actually really focusing on pawn play and how to actually maximize on your advantage, guys, don't be afraid to push pawns once you know that you can actually hang on to the space. Now e5, now back to d7. Now if you look at this, like, white is really free in terms of his movements, while black's pieces are literally tripping over each other. This is what you want in chess. Now, also, when you have the pawn center, just to make sure that you're not overextending, you want to really reinforce it again with pawns. So if you have a pawn center, just completely lock that pawn center with pawns. Now he's threatening this move pawn to c5. So instead of continuing with like a normal move such as like bringing out my bishop, I literally played this move knight to e2. Now again, from a human's point of view, this is going to make your games 15 times easier, and yes, it's going to actually go more in depth with today's topic: pawn play. Pawn to c3, and if you look at the board, it's going to be really hard for black to break down a structure like this. And what you're also going to realize is that the way in which your pawns are pointing is going to actually show you that you have a lot of space in that direction. He went knight to c6, and now we played again this another pawn move, pawn to a3. Now, yes, it is the top recommended move, but why? Guys, pawns help to control a lot of space. So I have space in the center. As you realize, black is really hard for black to move his pieces forward. Now, by this move a3, I am even threatening to play pawn to b4 to gain more space. Now, pieces can't fight pawns so easily. So if you have a pawn center, it's gonna be really hard for black to actually crash through or even pass that area of the board. Now we're gonna even take a bigger look at what's happening in this scenario. Now black's half is right here, and it's not so certain how black is planning to actually get his pieces into white's half of the board. So it's gonna be really hard for black to attack. He made, again, pawn takes b4. This is absolute madness. I simply recaptured with the a pawn. Remember what I said earlier, guys. Your pawn play must complement your pieces. You're not supposed to be looking to actually help your opponent to actually free his pieces with pawn play. So if you're having anything down, Just keep that locked. You know, had castles, and you're seeing where the bar is like really, really jumping into white's favor, and you're like, wait, I'm supposed to castle my king. Why is castling bad? The fact that white has his pawns pointing over there. Literally, all of white's pieces are literally lined up along that king side. And another thing that you guys need to know when it comes on to moves like this is that when the center is absolutely locked, where it's closed, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to transfer pieces from one side to the other. If there were no pawns in the center, it's going to be very easy for black to move, let's say like his bishop, from the queen side over to the king side. Pieces again are going to find it difficult when the center is locked. Now with that, let's continue. Knight to f4, getting more pieces towards that king side. You guys know how I play chess. The minute I see the target, I do not hesitate. Now knight to b6, he's trying to maybe finish his development. Still, development will not be enough at a certain level. You need to understand more about chess. Now this is where again a lot of middle game planning ideas will kick in. You guys remember what I said in my last video. You need, or I think it was like the video before, but still, I try to implement this as much as possible. Start to point your pieces to the king, the target, wherever you're seeing weaknesses in the position. In this case, it's the king, because it's the only defender protecting the h7 pawn. You want to get pieces over there. Now he played f5. Now, what you can actually write down now is basically when you're defending, you don't want to push pawns unless it is complementing your pieces. Like pawn breaks, which help to break open the position and help your pieces. Those are what you want. These pawn moves, although it's kind of blocking out the bishop, it always has its drawbacks. Each pawn move will actually leave a weakness behind. And remember, for the middle game, if you don't know what to do, look for weaknesses to exploit and exploit them. Like it's simply put. This is why I'm saying for a little bit, to go more in detail, like most persons here would castle. And as you're seeing again, to the right side of the screen, it's not even in the top 3 moves. I played this move pawn to h4, which is the topic of today. Push the pawns, guys, but only if you know when and why. Now normally the pawns in the center, like if you're playing like a Italian game or so, like either the d or the e file would have been open, so you castle your rook, you castle your king, bring your rooks to the open files, but that doesn't help you with middle game planning. Like what if you're on your own? What am I supposed to do there? All the pieces are at random squares and I need to play chess. You look at your pieces and you try to make pawn moves which complement the activity. Now my rook is on h1. Now when attacking, again, I like to count the amount of attackers I have versus the amount of defenders that my opponent has. Now, because I know that these two pieces are going to find it absolutely difficult to get towards that king side, I am literally putting everything over there. So if I have a rook which can attack and he has a rook that can't defend, it means I'm going to be able to have one more attacker versus defender. Now, we can go more in detail. He played a5. Now, if somebody is trying to get counterplay, you want to shut that down completely. So if you're attacking on one area of the board, if you have it in just a case where it's like you attacking and all they have to do is keep on defending, that's the dream scenario. You lock down all counterplay. So b5 here is a absolutely killer move, forcing this knight to again go back. And look, the pieces on the queen side, I don't want anybody to say that this is still an equal game. Stop waiting for material to actually believe that you're winning. You don't need a physical pawn in your like chess.com doesn't have to literally put a pawn and be like, here, you're now winning. You can actually just win the game when you have enough space. Now, I played this move knight to g5. Now, remember, if you don't think about chess the right way, these moves will become difficult. All we're simply doing is looking for targets to exploit. I played h4, why? To activate my rook. Activate the pieces. Think of chess as simply piece activity. Active pieces versus passive pieces. If you have an army where literally everything is playing and then you have all these sleeping people, like, who is going to win, guys? Now, knight to g5 is going to actually highlight again the reason why the side that is defending is going to find it really difficult to push pawns. Now, the weakness is on e6, and the only way in which black can defend this is to give up his dark square bishop to take that knight on g5. We simply recapture. Now, two things changed in this game just now. One is the fact that black has a lot of dark squares. Remember, bishops help to control weak squares. And the second one is that this open file is now death towards the black pieces. Now, he didn't even recapture on g5 because it's like super terrible. He instead played this move g6. But I could show like a small line. Let's say queen takes g5, queen f3. If he plays queen to g4, which is again recommended by the engine, I'm not a fan of it. Like, it's actually losing the h pawn and a lot of stuff's happening. I really hate this for black. But let's say that he even tries like queen to e7, right? Now, I'm going to show you guys how simple chess can be once you apply the right techniques. Now, by me opening up this h file, let's say that we didn't do this, these options would not be possible. But because of that open h file, moves like queen to h3 are now possible. If g6, you guys are seeing what's happening. Like, I can sacrifice pieces and start crashing through. This is not... It's not joke chess, guys. Every single thing is here to kill people. Look at this. Bishop check and black is cooked. All because of one open file. You'll hear that when you're defending, you don't want to open lines towards your king. This is absolutely 100% true. Now, he played g6 and again weakened some more dark squares around this king. We still played this move, queen to f3. You want to get as many pieces over that king side as possible. Remember, pawn moves, a lot of pawn moves will benefit the side that is attacking. You guys would have known about like pawn storms. But just remember that it has to complement your pieces. Don't just push pawns randomly. Bishop to d7, like, he wanted to maybe develop like his queenside pieces, but remember, pawns are hanging left and right. He tried bishop to d7, and now we hit him with queen to h3. Now, how to actually punish your opponent when they move their pawns incorrectly. Now, if your pawn play is not, and I repeat, is not complementing your pieces, meaning you're blocking out pieces and it's not really helping with the activity, you want to have your pieces putting pressure on the weak points in that scenario. Like e6, there's no way to win it, but you still want to add pressure. h7, obviously he will not blunder. Checkmate in one, so he defended. But because you have pressure along that side, tactics becomes available. Always look for forcing moves in your opponent's half of the board. Knight takes g6, and if he dares to capture my knight, then queen to h8 is checkmate. Rook to g7 on the board. No. Pawn play, I simply just like brought back my knight though, but pawn play, remember guys, if you don't put the pawns correctly, or push the pawns correctly, you might be overextended. But if you master this, if you 100% master this, like literally, you literally be locking down your opponent's play 100%. Knight to f4, q to e8, and now this move, knight to h5. If he moves the rook, the same thing is going to happen, knight f6. So he probably tried to sacrifice that rook this way. But we're also going to be going over piece value. Now, yes, a rook is worth 5 points, but it's still, again, look at chess as active versus passive pieces. My knight is 100% active. Why would I take this rook that has no future? Rooks are good in endgames where there's a lot of open lines. This is a middle game where literally you're 100% certain that black will not make it to the end game. It's good to actually keep your active pieces in scenarios like this. Now, I have a lot of pieces involved in the game. If you're not seeing like a direct way to knock out, look to bring more. I could be looking to bring my bishop out to h3. I could see which piece is not optimized. Which piece do I need to bring in the game? And that's how you come up with this move, bishop to e2. And believe it or not, my opponent literally resigned here. There's literally no way to stop bishop to h5. Even if you move your king, the queen is literally trapped. But guys, take notes. You want your pawns to actually dictate your piece play. I'll go more in depth in like more videos, but feel free to subscribe for videos like this, and thanks again for watching, guys. Take care.